with a 3D printed structure, and they put cells in it. So cells, human like cells in the organ, and so they 3D print it and then populate it with like lung cells and stuff like that. Green. Yes.
I think, in my opinion, we need to have public hearing. Talk to some people.
Yeah.
Got some people who want to speak about it.
Yeah.
What they have to say. That's good.
Agreed.
Oh, he says for a
How
public.
was that Volkswagen on that long truck?
Our citizens.
No, Mayor, how are you?
Maybe not.
No, so it's actually
He's ready to fill in for me if I don't. I told you, it's always good to have really good backup.
And so there's, I mean, that was great. Bumper to bumper traffic in Houston is not so big because you're sitting down there. So.
Is it 5 speed?
Yeah, 37 miles per gallon. I did. I was doing 75 to 80 hours. I still got
How do you do?
Okay, so we only
Now, there
have
was probably a little bit of the southern breeze.
two resolutions. So go ahead and read A and B.
Yeah, I'm in a bad habit of doing about 90, 85, 35.
On both.
Most of the time that's okay, but every now and then you sneak in more. I haven't get stopped yet. Today I got right up behind it.
I did not. No ticket. No, I wasn't good. I was on occasions I was going a little faster, but I will say I wasn't the only one.
Were you in the golf?
Yeah, the GTI. Yeah. So,
What times if you're going the speed limit, you're ahead.
I tell you what, Houston, if you're not doing 90 in a slow lane, you get run over.
Yep.
It's crazy.
I got backup today, John.
I don't know.
Just been cleared already.
What was the Christmas thing?
It was great.
Yeah.
It really turned out well. I mean, biggest crowd we've ever had. We had 170 people.
Wow. That's the first one. I mean, other than 2020, we went
Right.
virtual
No.
or whatever. It's the first one I've met.
Yes. They really did a good job. Michelle's not here tonight, but Michelle.
Oh. That's a real sticky. I thought she kind of found out.
Berkeley, I didn't see you sneak in. How are you?
Well, you were super busy. And I thought, why would I ruin your holiday?
Somebody asked me the other day if I knew it. I said, well, his daddy delivered me at the hospital in downtown. So I was pretty familiar with the purchase for a while.
Seriously.
Somebody. It might be what you have to buy. Pull it off.
It's amazing.
They're nice.
72 years ago, plus. Like that.
Saying,
So many of the people I know that work right now.
my final winter mowing last time I was out there. That's the one.
Yeah.
It is horrible.
I need to haul it back here and
Yeah.
take it over there and drop it off to get service.
Service, yeah.
See how many blades I ruined.
I need to, I've got 3 sets of blades. I keep telling myself, it's like, I'm gonna sharpen one of these and I get around to doing it. It's like, and I was just get them out and it's like notches on and all that.
Was it 5:30 yet?
Not quite.
Every blade I've had up there has been worn down to a point because there's so much sand. So it's just sands them down. And if you
Wayne?
I just wanted to let you know that Pastor is here.
Okay. Ms. Jacobs? She's gone already. Ms. Russell?
I was set to call in. I thought I was able to leave.
Hey, what's up, man?
She left early enough.
Yeah.
Get around.
It really is.
When I'm downtown and somebody
It's a long day. If you do it in one day.
Or where you were, you take that loop all the way around.
Yeah. So I did the loop to 290, 296 and 6.
Yeah, but after I had texted you, about 6:15 wake up time, they called and said, we'll be here at 5:30.
Like, oh, it's the other one.
Okay.
Exhaust.
That's right.
Dead man's curve.
And he's only got one to
There was
do.
a time there where they had to shut down and you didn't know it until you got outside of here. And that's way out of your way.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have you all joining us this afternoon for the regular scheduled Belton City Council meeting for December 14th, 2021. Today, the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag will be led by Councilmember Craig Pearson. The pledge to the Texas flag will be led by Interim Director of Public Works, Matt Bates, and the prayer will be given by Councilmember Dan Kirkley.
Joining the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Lord God, we find ourselves here today doing business for you on behalf of our friends, our neighbors, and our families. And Father, I pray tonight that you'll give us the wisdom, the compassion, and the unconditional love that you have demonstrated to us through our precious Jesus, in whose name we pray. Amen.
Call the meeting to order, and the first item on the agenda is public comments, and I think we have one person signed up for public comments at this point in time. Two persons come for public comments at this time, and I think former Mayor Holmes, would you like to address us and let us know where you live?
Yes, sir. I live at, my name is Bill Holmes. I live at 505 Red River in Belton. And I've been wanting to do this for some time, but I wanted to come before the council and say a thank you for what you do and how you do it. Many people think that you meet and spend a couple of hours every month, but some of us know that that's not actually the case, that there's a lot more time being consumed by the councilman and than is the public perceives. I also wanted to give you an update. Because I'm retired, I get a chance to listen to a lot of people. And I wanted to tell you about the police department and the recognition that they're getting nationwide, whether you know it or not, through the Are You OK program and through the House Watch program. I have a friend in Helena, Montana, who has taken the Are You OK program to the mayor of the city of Montana, Helena, which is the capital of Montana. And they're going to install that program apparently in the coming months. So that's a tremendous asset for that community, fostered by the city of Belton. The fire department is doing a good job. The only negatives that I've heard is the EMS, and not particularly the service, but the cost. For those people who have used it in the past, the cost has jumped dramatically, and that may be something that you might want to investigate. The Parks Department, I think, is doing a fantastic job. I don't know if you know much about the legacy program that we installed a number of years ago, but I'm telling you, you look around and you can see the fruits of that program every day as you travel through the parks and around the community. The only negative that I've been able to hear, and I'll pass on to you, and actually I don't think you can do much about it, is the traffic, especially at 317 and Sparta Road and on 121 at certain times of the day is horrendous. But that's the price we pay for a growing, prosperous community in which we live. Again, I want to thank you for what you do. I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas with your family and your friends. And God bless the city of Belton and the United States of America. God bless.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mr. Holmes. For those of you who don't know, pardon me, that water is it's stout tonight. Those of you who don't know, Mr. Holmes was mayor of Belton for several years, also mayor of Marlin before that, before he moved to Belton. And it's been a blessing to Belton to have him and his family here. So we appreciate his comments. And his son, John, here is a legacy of that move. At this time, the other person who wishes to speak at this time is Mark Mahler, whom I recognize from way back before he had gray hair.
Back there in economics class, right? I remember that. Thank you. This will be real short. I'm speaking on behalf of Chet Dixon of Dixon Ranch over off Sparta Road. Mr. Dixon just wanted me to communicate that he really appreciates the city of Belton and the great communication that he's had and that we've had regarding the revisions to Belton's thoroughfare plan. But he also did want me to communicate that he would strongly oppose any road construction on the ranch property. And that he hopes the city of Belton would take this into consideration in their future plans. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mark. Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Items 3 through 7 are on the consent agenda, and these items are considered to be routine by council and may be enacted by one motion. They may be pulled for separate if we need to do so. Item 3, to consider the minutes of the November 23rd, 2021 city council meeting. Item 4, to conduct an annual review and consider a resolution readopting the fund balance policy for the city of Belton. Item 5, to conduct an annual review and consider a resolution readopting the debt policy for the city of Belton. Item 6, to conduct an annual review and consider a resolution readopting the investment policy for the city of Belton. And item 7, to consider approval of the software maintenance agreement with the city of Temple for a regional police records management system. Does anyone wish to pull any of those items? If not, I would hear a motion.
I move we approve items 3 through 7 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items pass unanimously.
And Mayor, just as a note, I did spend some time with Mike and we went over all those finance items there and minor changes, all in line. And Mike's doing a great job. So really appreciate his updating those policies and some minor changes and cleanup work almost for a couple of them.
Thank you, John, for saying that. And thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Item number 8, to hold a public hearing regarding the issuance of City of Belton, Texas combination tax and limited revenue certificates of obligation series 2022 in a maximum principal amount not to exceed $7 million. Mr. Rogers.
Mayor and council, tonight is the public hearing on the issuance of certificates of obligation. City Council approved a reimbursement resolution on October the 12th. The notice of intention to issue the certificates was approved on November the 9th and published in the Temple Daily Telegram on November 15, 22nd, and 29th. The notice has also been published continuously on our website. A competitive bond sale will occur on January 11th of 2022. There is no action tonight other than conducting this public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak on this matter? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and we will re-examine this item at the January 11th meeting. Thank you, sir. Item 9, to hold a public hearing and consider approval of amendments to the City of Belton's thoroughfare plan. And here a staff report from Director of Planning, Bob Van Til, and Mr. Pearson is going to recuse himself at this time.
Are you ready?
Yes, Mr. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you very much. The purpose of our item this evening is to hold a public hearing and consider proposed amendments to our thoroughfare plan. And our goal of the project is to make interim changes to the thoroughfare plan. And what I'd like to talk briefly about is why it's so important, why we make these changes, and kind of remind the council of how we got to this point this evening. So why is the thoroughfare plan so important? It's a very important document that is integral to our city's comprehensive plan. It provides a framework for roadways around which development occurs, and it identifies basic designs and layouts that may be considered for future roadways. It guides development and the street system in conjunction with each other in the city and the ETJ, and it takes into consideration the mobility needs of the public. It provides guidance on the general alignment of right-of-way required for roadways as development and subdivisions occur, and provides guidance on thoroughfare system improvements, including the planned extension of roadways. You know, for instance, if we have an existing system and development around occurs around it, it's not just new roads, it's roads that exist that need to be expanded and so on and so forth. Implementation of the thoroughfare plan is very critical to understand, and it's primarily implemented by the property owners or developers. It's very rare that the city will come through an area and say, this is where we're going to develop a project. It's usually run by or initiated by the private sector. And right-of-way dedication and road constructions, which are the two main components of the thoroughfare plan, is usually obtained and negotiated during the subdivision platting, development, and permitting process. So we needed to make some adjustments to the plan, primarily because there was some recent platting activity. You may remember along Elm Grove Road, we have originally thought it'd be an 80-foot section, but the development in an area, it makes more sense to have it at maybe a 60-foot section. Some recent development activities that have occurred, such as along River Farms development, that kind of thing, And then just evaluations of some current alignments that appear to not any longer appear feasible in those areas. And as we go through the presentation, you'll see what we're talking about here. So this is kind of an overview of the plan. As I understand, it's kind of hard to see. We're going to zoom in out on some areas and to kind of highlight those individually. So here we go. So they're numbered from 1 through 17. And I realize 17 is at the bottom of the list, so don't get your hopes up. It's not that short of a presentation. I do have the other ones here and there. But I want to step through them very briefly, just like I did before during the workshop, and just kind of touch on those very briefly. So number 1 here kind of extends across. This is 22nd Street or Avenue, and it extends across to Pea Ridge Road. We're suggesting that we eliminate that connection, primarily because it is somewhat unfeasible to run across the river. And as I'll explain later on, the Temple plan does not include that in their thoroughfare plan as they're going through their updates. And number 2, it really relates more to this section here and Hilltop. We're suggesting these upgrades to 22nd along Hilltop and into the park as part of the circulation for the new park in that area there. Number 3 is down here. And that's 9th Street. And we're just asking that be removed from the plan, primarily because that area is fully developed, and it's unlikely that that particular roadway will change. It's currently 50 feet of right of way, and to expand that to maybe 60 or larger is impractical. So 17 was added after the council comments were made in early October. And we're just basically reclassifying that down from a major collector to a minor collector, which is down to the existing 60 foot of right of way. Okay, moving on. This area here is just southwest of 93, east of 35 in that area. Let's see, number 4 is an unknown proposed road. We're suggesting that we eliminate that. This is number 4 right here. We eliminate that primarily because of its alignment through an existing neighborhood, and the right-of-way acquisition in this portion of the neighborhood would be very challenging. Similar with number 5, that is a major arterial, which again impacts some neighborhoods on the north end and then hits the road right here in a way that is problematic. So what we've done is taken Elm Grove, and instead of making this arrangement 4 and 5, is to take it out to the north east and have it intersect with 93 in that approximate area. And so it would essentially open that area up and not impact that neighborhood. That doesn't mean that future thoroughfares may not be needed where 4 and 5 are, but we think that from the thoroughfare perspective, in terms of moving the traffic in the area, the suggestion for Elm Grove hitting 93 is a better alternative. And here we go again with Elm Grove. We'll see it all the way down to Amity, actually. And so in this area, we have some pictures to show you here. On 7, our original thoroughfare plan showed the road to go along here. And then earlier on, we suggested that we run the road along there, primarily to keep it within the city's ETJ. After meeting with a developer in this area, he suggested that it would be very challenging to extend Shanklin along that area, or actually along any of the area along the creek there, along the river, particularly in this area, as you can see. So we asked KPA to do a route analysis, and they came up with some some alternatives. And I'm going to switch to the next slide because it kind of gives you that idea there. So we had two routes that we evaluated. One was this southern, which is more like the one we have today. And that proves to be very challenging because there are a number of bridges in there. So we have more data on that than probably what we need on the thoroughfare plan. But it's important to know that its feasibility is probably next to nil. The other that we're talking about is the purple line. And I won't draw over it, otherwise it'll turn the color. But it's what we refer to as route number 2. And what that will do is, we recommend that you look favorably on that one. What it will do is, we have on the thoroughfare and also Capitol Way, and then we also have Mesquite that will run across here. It's actually coming across here, and then Mesquite is on the other side across there. And you may remember back in the thoroughfare plan was amended to show this southern connection between Cedar Crest and Shanklin Ranch. And so this particular alignment, route number 2, is a good alternative because it gets it out of the floodplain, and it also will potentially, combine a bunch of or several of the thoroughfares that are necessary in that area. So getting back to the proposed amendments, we're suggesting that Shanklin Road run from I-35 up Capitol Way or thereabouts and across where Mesquite might be, and then head on east over to Witter Road. Okay, is that about as clear as mud? Okay.
So,
yeah.
well, I guess the only question is it also aligns at some point if we need an outer loop, right? So we've got an inner loop, it aligns for an outer loop. And this zigzag is probably not going to be aligned so well if we want to go with TxDOT, where the rounding that corner where you have the square under 7 would probably be more aligned with something TxDOT would approve. So anyway, that's the only comment is if we think about an outer loop, the meandering way is probably not standard.
Correct. It does create some hard corners, which has its benefits on the other end of the spectrum.
Quick question, Bob. How do I say this? In the news, the latest infrastructure federal funding thing was declared to include Fort to Port, which is Interstate 14, and we're assuming there'll be some. Has there been any thought given? And the article that I read said it was a 5 to 10 year program, which means it probably 20 or 30. But is there any thought of how that might come into play?
Well, I haven't seen the details on what the rules are ultimately.
I don't think there are any. So yeah,
that's probably one of the reasons we'll see that 5, 10 year, because they'll write the rules and then they take a while to do it.
Right.
But depending on the rules, that would be a good source of funding for many
Sure.
projects in Texas, particularly a lot of the highway jobs.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Okay, moving along. Elm Grove, there's our buddy again, down to Amity. Toll Bridge Road, that's in response to River Farms and their development. That is just lifted right out of the development agreement with the mud. That's this guy right here. So we're jumping back to the north side. We changed 9 originally to reflect that it was all built, and then we got comment, that it's not entirely built. So we reflected those dash lines in there. And then number 10 is Spring Canyon Road, and essentially what it used to do is come across there. Now we've kind of routed it to the south more. We're just missing the hydroponic arm in that area. And as you know, that thoroughfare has been on the plan, as many of the others have been for at least since 2015, that kind of thing. Moving on. Number 11 is Avenue D. We just made a slight alignment. We're not reclassifying that just to get out of the way of some existing developments. There's some feedback from the property owners in that area that had some anxiety about where that road was going. And so we just pushed it to where it doesn't hit any many developments. Number 12 was removed from the plan at the request from the BEDC. So I don't know if I need to say any more than that. Number 13 is the Southwest Parkway is a new minor collector that we're proposing to add to the thoroughfare. That is in response to a project call from K-Tempo back in, well, last year. And we requested funding from them in order to build this road. The project didn't get funded, but it scored fairly high in the overall rankings of projects. And so we felt that we made a really good case for it. And so we wanted to add it to the thoroughfare plan, and hopefully you all will agree with that. Let's see, number 14 is Shanklin Road again. We are just aligning this with the existing Three Creeks Boulevard because on the previous plan, it was going south and then down. Well, Three Creeks Boulevard is really up and over. And so we're just aligning it with the existing road, just like that. And it also relates back to some analysis that we did from the connections. Actually, KPA did an analysis for us to see where it might best hit. And so we're suggesting at this time that this would be the appropriate routing of Shanklin. There's no changing in the classification. It's just kind of reflecting existing conditions in that area.
Bob, has the county spoken again about the issue we had 2 weeks ago? Excuse me, about the alignment and the access, ingress, egress at Three Creeks Boulevard?
Oh,
Because I think we sent that to county, maybe.
it's on its way to the county. The property owners have to get the documents together before they can send them over.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we're waiting on answers there. Yeah, okay, moving on. Number 15 is an extension of a major arterial. It ended here at Amity. And so we thought it would be logical, rather than having a major arterial, which is 120 foot wide, kind of squeeze into what may be a 2-lane undivided, but it's a good section. It's a good section that goes on all the way down to 2484. And what I mean is a good cross section. There's enough. And so we would take a state road and articulate it with a state road, basically. And so we extended that designation all the way down to 2484. And this is already existing on a thoroughfare plan as a major arterial. So it makes sense to do that. Number 16 is in response to the widening of the improvements on Interstate 35. They basically closed that and rerouted the road. So we're reflecting that on our plan. And one of the reasons we're doing that is it seems like, well, we do it anyway, but we've seen some development interest in that area, and they were asking about that, exactly how are we going to have to accommodate that aspect of the thoroughfare plan. So we think it's good to show it, and that way it kind of takes the thinking out of the way from folks that are thinking about doing any kind of development in that area. As a matter of fact, we might see something coming to the council in the next month or two in that area regarding a right of way. So hopefully that'll all come to pass. Okay, that's Rose Lane. So just a quick reminder about the schedule that we've had so far. We talked to the council back in October and got some very good feedback. Also talked to the planning commissioners in October. Also really good feedback. We published our activities on the website, which got pushed out through Facebook. We sent a number of letters, about 50 or so, to property owners that were affected. And we had a public hearing, a public comment period that ended about mid-November or so. Then we geared up for a public hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission, which we held. And I'll talk more about that here in a minute. And then, of course, here we are, December 14th. Also with a public hearing and maybe a final action. So from the council workshop back in October, we talked about Waituria, 13th Street, the area west side of Belton. and then how it would work with the temple mobility plan. And so what we did was we reflected Waituria on the plan. We also reflected 13th on the plan, which is a down classification. Also possible exploration of taking lane 190 down to Three Creeks Boulevard. And I'll touch on that just very briefly here in a sec. And then in the West Belton area, we were asked to kind of look at that area and see if we could make some suggestions in that area. And then what we did with the West Belton area, there are some critical plans that need to be evaluated. One is for utilities, and then for future land use. And we're suggesting that all those things take place, during a comprehensive plan update. And we typically do that every 10 years, but, internally, we're talking about, well, maybe we need to do that more often because development pressure is really picking up and we're seeing some things that we need to keep up with. In terms of the tempo mobility plan, that plan will be done that's what they're telling me, early next year. And so there are a good number of connections that are being made with that plan and our plan, as we do with the various staffs between the organizations. We're sharing information regularly. So let me hone in on 190 just very briefly. How do we maybe connect down to Three Creeks? Well, unfortunately, phase 7 of Three Creeks is right in the way, and you can see it sitting right there. And so what we may do, and I'm not making any suggestion in the plan at this particular point in time, but just to let you know that we put some thinking into this, that instead of 190 going down to Three Creeks, we might extend Mesquite down to Rockingham, or maybe even further out. And so we'll just have to see how that all turns out. So the bottom line is kind of challenging to push it to the south, but there are other ways to get the circulation going in that area. Okay. Planning and Zoning Commission, after their workshop, that it was kind of in reaction to the elimination of 22nd Street across the Leon River. How many times we get across the river, make sure that all this connectivity stays good. And so we articulated, we just kind of made a list of all the places, and they knew this, and they wanted us to make sure we doubly check this. And so we have 5 existing, and then 1, which is the Shanklin Road, Witter Road connection. And so our connection across the Leon with the 22nd is, we're recommending that we do away with that at this time. So public comments. We received the public comments prior to P&Z. We heard the gentleman tonight about the Dixon Ranch, and since he brought that up, he's opposed to the adjusted alignment, or actually any road. So you heard that yourselves. And of course, when that road comes to pass, as I mentioned to you during the implementation discussion or mention, it's up to them. So, however this comes to pass, that if the city were to propose that, pay for it, then we're going to find some exciting discussions there. But if they decide to develop their property, then we would ask for that thoroughfare to be included in their development. So, and that would be something that would greatly benefit them in terms of circulation through that area. We talked to people along Shanklin, west of I-35. They faced on Shanklin. They weren't quite sure exactly what was going on with Shanklin. So the information that they received was somewhat surprising to them. And so we did a little education there. They're not happy about it, but we have a thoroughfare that has some wider ranging public benefit, which they know about. People just disagree. Can I tell you? East of 35, also along Shanklin, that property owner just was a little bit taken off guard by the time frame that we were having these discussions in, and she said, "If I have any more questions, I'll get back with you." So there we go.
Which one was that, Bob?
Shanklin Ranch.
Shanklin Ranch.
Yes, sir. And And Toll Bridge Road, we met with some property owners up and down on the west side. And that's mostly clarification because they're in the process of negotiating sale of their property. And so they wanted more information about what's happening with Toll Road. And so they have that information, and they can pass it on. And we also, of course, had favorable comments from our friends at TABA regarding the plan. Then again, at the public hearing on November with our planning commissioners, we had a number of property owners from West Mesquite along the Southwest Parkway area. We had other feedback from, oh, and by the way, we did meet with those folks on West Mesquite and we explained the implementation process. And so they feel like that they're back in the driver's seat. So it's not like an issue of we're going to take their land and build a road and run them off. It's very critical that they understand that a lot of this is driven by the private sector. Our job is to make sure that circulation occurs efficiently and effectively. And this is how we do it. We had a few folks on South Tollbridge Road, south of the river, that talked about the width of the existing Tollbridge Road in terms of the pavement and the location of the historic Tollbridge house, the toll house. And so that is something that we have to take some time to look at because it's true. It gets very narrow in through there. It's not impossible to get through that area down to Elmer King, but that's an area that is that truly merits some extra evaluation. And then we had a property owner on the east side of Toll Bridge who questioned the east-west thoroughfare that goes from Toll Bridge out to the I think it's Capitol. Anyway, goes out to Elm Grove. I'm sorry. And yeah, it just says right there, Elm Grove. He didn't quite understand why it was there, but the nature of the thoroughfare plan is that road is intended to move traffic from east to west, from Toll Bridge out to Elm Grove. And it may or may not go exactly where he thinks it's going to go because it goes through his property. And so we'll see. It may be in River Farms. It may be north or south of there. This exhibit, I wanted to show you, that's where the disbursement of the public comments came from. The red stars will show the folks or the areas where the comments came from. All right, we're in the home stretch. After the Planning and Zoning Commission had their public hearing, they recommended that the plan be approved, but they wanted to make sure that the projects, say 13, which is Southwest Parkway extending south to Mesquite, we look at that more, and they said it should be further considered based on concerns expressed. But I think we addressed those concerns. And then the other is 8, which is Toll Bridge Road. But what they were talking about was the two property owners south of the river that had concerns with the historic structure, and we concur with that. And so our recommendation this evening is that you conduct the public hearing, and if you feel that you're at that point, then we recommend that you approve the amendments to the thoroughfare plan.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate all the work that y'all have put into it. Obviously, our city is growing, and it looks like it's going to grow a lot more in the near future. And all this is important to try to plan and not be reactive as not let growth get ahead of what we can accommodate. At this time, we'll open the public hearing, and I know, Mr. Gregory, I think you were the first one to sign up. If you'd like to come speak, just tell us your name and address, please, sir.
Yeah, Jerry Gregory. I live at 5558 Elm Grove Road, and my mother's property actually is right on the other side of the river from, I guess, Randy Alford was probably talked to you earlier. We're on the other side. And the way it's proposed, it comes right down through the middle of my mother's and ties into mine. My property in front of hers, and it just make a mess out of what we own. So we're against it in any form or fashion. I mean, I know growth's going to have to happen, but surely we could salvage people's lifestyle some way or another. So we're against it at the present way it's presented right now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Public hearing. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor or speak against or question? If you would just state your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Gregory Trader. I lived at 6501 Toll Bridge Road. I actually live in a toll house. And one of the major concerns that we have there is this 19-foot from the street to our front porch. And back in the 90s, traffic there's wild. It's posted for 30 miles an hour. They go through there 60 or better. But in the 90s, we had a car crash into the front of our place coming across the bridge. I've seen them up in the trees. Seen them up on the side of the bridge, and they even knocked the bridge over. And so that thoroughfare is of a big concern to us because the ditch off of that roadway ends right there in front of our house. We have a lot of old historic trees on that place. That place has been there since 1875. And it's a major concern to us. I don't know how you deal with it. I'm sure that it would have to go Mr. Gilchrist's way. You know, to save it off of my side. But are there going to be more hearings on that? More discussion on that?
Is it okay if I answer that?
That's up to the council tonight, but I would assume that there probably will be.
Okay. Because we haven't received any notifications other than what we read in the paper to, you know, that you're having a meeting. So my opinion.
Well, there would be before something happens there, for sure.
Yeah,
Not
obviously.
necessarily the thoroughfare.
Oh, obviously there will be
but
something.
Before something actually
Sure.
happened, there would be a lot more discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember, all these are not funded. This is long-range planning. So obviously, we're not coming out there to build a road in the immediate future.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some of these dotted lines and solid lines have been on here for 30, 40, 50 years. So, I mean, it's a real long range plan.
There was one other item of interest that I've known for a long time, Mr. Bill Messer. If you knew him from Belton here, he did my abstract and my closing and everything in my title policy, where my abstract goes all the way back to the Sterling Robinson land divisions and stuff. And he told me the one thing that was curious about my place is that my property goes to the middle of that road.
Yeah, a lot of country properties go to the middle of the road.
Yeah. So. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trader. Anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Good afternoon, sir.
I'm Paul Neese. I live at 6471 Toll Bridge next to the Traders. I'm not really sure what to tell you. I've sat here and listened, and a lot of the discussion we've had have been about developers and trying to do things to improve development. And I understand that for the city to grow, you need more development. But I also think that you have to take into account the people who live here. Because the last time I checked, you guys were supposed to represent us, not just the developers. I've got 400+ pecan trees along that road on this side of the bridge, south side of the bridge, and they're all dying. And they're probably dying because they're like me and they're getting older, which solves your problem. But the other reason they're dying is because we expanded the road at the bridgehead, just like we knew we were going to, you knew we were going to have to when we put that in. And with the expanded bridgehead, my guess is that it was the increased traffic from all the heavy equipment when they were building the bridge that probably damaged the roots of the pecan trees, and now they're dying. There's no way to straighten that road out. It bends right at the end of the bridge. And so if you're going to bend it more towards the west side, you're going to compound the traffic problem with people coming across the bridge. So those are my concerns, and I just hope you guys will think about it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this issue? If not, we'll close the public hearing and, sorry, sir.
Good evening. My name is Marvin Bell, and I'm not on your list, but I'm at 2027 Connell Street, and like the gentleman was talking about future thoroughfare expansion. I've been hearing about Connell being a major connector, and I don't know when that's going to happen, but the concern I have is that I thought I heard you say you communicate with property owners through Facebook. Did I hear that correctly?
You did. We did in, oh, sorry, is it okay if I?
Yes, sir.
just-
Answer.
Typically, we like to hear during the public hearing, not discuss, but yes, we did Facebook, we did website, we even sent letters to people that were affected by the plan.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that because everybody is not subscribed to Facebook, and Facebook has its own issues.
Right.
And I would hope with something of this magnitude and concern would be more than just a Facebook posting, just like the newspapers. Everybody does not subscribe to the Belton Journal. So hopefully that would be an official way that property owners would know what's going on prior to, because I just came tonight to hear what's going on because it's been a while since I've been here, but just want to express that concern as a property owner on 2027 Connell, South Connell Street. We would like to know what's happening in the mix, so to speak.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
And we have used a variety of means, and certainly letters to the people who would be affected were sent from the city. Anyone else wish to speak on this matter? If not, we'll close the public hearing and open it for council discussion.
I just wanted to state that Belton really doesn't build many roads. Developers, landowners who want to develop their properties, come and meet with us and review the thorough plan, and then go into road and street and development of properties. And this 20 to 30-year plan here, but unless somebody wants to develop their country property, we would not go in and put a road in. TxDOT might, but we just don't have the resources or the funds to do that. And so not really bending over to the developers, or that's up to the property owner if they want to do that to their property. And we want to have a plan to keep traffic moving and be proactive and have a long-term plan for traffic through the city. You know, you see some of these and you get anxious and concerned and think this is happening pretty quickly, but it's up to the landowner to develop that property. And if the development doesn't happen, the city's really not capable of going in and putting a street through there. Just want to make that comment.
That's what I would reiterate, exactly what he just said, and that a lot of these things, you know, we're looking 20, 30, 40 years down the road and trying to put a roadmap, pardon the pun, in place for potential development and what we can kind of envision possibly happening with development in certain areas. So doesn't mean that's going to happen. And to one of the citizens' points, I mean, we may all be long gone before some of this stuff ever comes into play, but we have to kind of lay some of these things out to kind of guide development in the right way, because if you don't, then you got people developing over here and putting a street in that doesn't connect to anything. And you got all these streets that go nowhere. And so we just kind of have to have something in writing that's kind of a potential vision of what the future could look like. And I'm glad we have this opportunity to kind of clarify that. I know it probably doesn't dispel everybody's concerns completely, but this doesn't mean we're, like he said, we're not going to come put a street in next week because we think a street should go there. We're just not in the business of doing that. Development will drive these decisions, and it'll potentially be down the road. And to the toll bridge issue, that's going to be an issue that will have to be addressed, that bridge and that spot. There'll have to be a lot of discussion that goes into what happens there. And there'll be a lot of further discussion about that. And it may not be fixable. It may be something completely different, but because we're not necessarily in the business of ripping all that up and destroying a historic area either. So there'll be future discussions on that, I'm sure, if it comes up.
The main objective is to ensure that the development doesn't happen on those plans. It's not to create the road, but you can see if you look at Google Maps, the lake to lake alignment, you can see where houses have not been built to allow for that, because the worst thing is that you have to come in and take out a house. Temple had to do that, I think, on, was it Pecan or
Pea Ridge,
Poison Oak, whatever that is. Yeah, Poison Oak. Yeah, because because the reality is it's to allow for the people that do live in the community to traverse those roads, and so it's better to have the plan. And this is a good process. It allows you guys to come in and maybe that does tweak what we do. Maybe we didn't, because we don't see it always. Looking at it like this is different than looking at it from the road. My family just lost our homestead, one of our homesteads in Temple, with their outer loop. And so the barn that my great grandfather built has been torn down now, and kind of sucks, but that's just, it's right next to the Niagara and all that other stuff that used to be fields. Now it's all development, and it's, the family got paid, so, and it's sad to see, but I think generally speaking, we like to resist. I think Green is the one that says their statement, gently resisting change since 18 something. Belton's kind of that way too. We gently resist change, and our citizens, I think, aggressively resist change. And we were citizens before we ran, and we still are citizens. So we are listening. And that being said, I think that there's a couple of properties that probably could be tweaked a little bit. I think that there's some other people that may have comments that aren't here around the holidays. I don't know, Mayor, is your thought that it'd be good to have a second hearing, public hearing, or just to take what we've heard here and bring it back for action in the?
Well, I'm certainly amenable to a second public hearing after the first of the year, and give people another opportunity, and give us more opportunity to go out and drive some of the places that we have. We've driven most of those spots, but it's been a while and there has been some changes. So that gives everyone a chance to digest and look at it. So,
and for those that read the paper instead of Facebook, this would give an opportunity to read the paper about this and say, okay, we'll have a second public hearing, so that way that the neighbors can get out and knock on doors and stuff like that. So yeah,
And look on the city website.
look for a letter if you're affected. That's what I said. If you're going to be impacted by that change, then we need to get you a letter in the United States Postal Service.
Well, yeah, along with maybe a water bill, since we're mailing stuff anyway, right? So yeah, I would as far as council action, I would make the motion that we take no action on this right now, and that we hold another hearing with action in a future date to be determined by staff.
Second.
You've heard the motion
Yeah,
from
January. Yeah, January. That's fine.
January 14th, 11th. Okay, you've heard the motion to postpone till January 11th, or second public hearing and consideration of the thoroughfare plan. We've had a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for coming and expressing your concerns, and look forward to hearing more about it after the first of the year. All right. Item number 10 is an exciting prospect. We're going to consider the approval of resolutions authorizing the submission of the following grants in partnership with the Mount Zion United Methodist Church located at 218 North Alexander Street. And Joelle is going to present that to us. They're two separate things, right?
Right. There's actually two grants that I found. So first, thank you, Mayor and Council. We actually have several individuals from Mount Zion.
I know Red Dimerson, Ms. Jacobs. Thank you for coming, Mr. Russell. Thank you, Patrick. I didn't see you sneak in back there. Glad to have you all here tonight. Longtime members of Mount Zion, so please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. A little bit of history. Mount Zion United Methodist Church is actually the oldest African United Methodist Church here in Texas. And it's also the second oldest African American church in Texas for all denominations. So that's, just the historical background with that. It was built in 1893 by the African American congregation. And the church is one of the few surviving early African American churches in Bell County and state of Texas. Mount Zion United Methodist Church is listed on the National Historical Register. And the Mount Zion congregation continues to make restoration improvements to the original sanctuary. And these grants, if awarded, would actually be able to help complete the projects so that we can end up making sure that we keep this national treasure, for others to be able to view and to enjoy. Mount Zion United Methodist Church would provide the match for both grants. There's a 25% match for the Preservation Texas Rural African American Heritage Grant, and there is a 20% match for the National Trust for Historic Preservation's African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund. Those are the two grants. The Preservation Texas Rural African American Heritage Grant is estimated at about $100,000 and would impact most of the interior repairs needed in the sanctuary. And the National Trust for Historic Preservation American Cultural Heritage Action Fund grant is estimated at about $125,000 and would impact most of the exterior needed repairs for the church. The church is currently being used for different functions and so forth. So it's not like it's just sitting there rotting. It's not. It's a very usable and pliable sanctuary at this time that they are holding different funds with. There is an estimated contribution from the city of Belton for $10,000 for local infrastructure.
If they want
I
to give us
know,
some money, we'll
wouldn't
take it.
it? We'll get right at, yeah, I know. We'll tell them later. For the fire protection enhancements, and those would include fire hydrants and dedicated fire protection service line and the water service line to the sanctuary. I am working with Ms. Jacobs and other church members, and I am continuing getting letters of support from different members from the congregation. And I do have a letters from the NAACP, Benny Walsh. He actually submitted some letters of support for this, for these grants as well. Any questions or anything that you may have?
I'd like to make a comment. And when it's appropriate, I would like to make the motion. I've attended services at Mount Zion on a number of occasions. Just a marvelous experience. And I love my brothers and sisters who go there. And I think for the neighborhood and for the membership and everything that happens at Mount Zion, it has been a huge blessing to me and my family personally. As a result of that, and we can have additional discussion about it, but I would make the motion that we authorize submission of those grants for the United Methodist Church at the Mount Zion at 219 North Alexander Street for A and B, the application to the Preservation Texas Rural African American Heritage Grant, and the application for the National Treasure for Historic Preservation African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund. I think you covered what I was going to read, so that's great. Thank you, Mr. Kirkley. And we've also had contact with Congressman Carter's office and Cheryl Hostman, his aide, and they're trying to help us pursue these grants. So we're looking forward to possibly successful conclusion this time around. So we're pulling for y'all very much. And so being a Methodist, and we share some things, and we had a great back to school event this year between the two churches, and there's a lot of community support for that congregation. So we hope that these are successful. So we have a motion on item A.
Second.
Second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And those motions both pass unanimously. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Good luck to you. A and B. Item 11, to consider authorizing a resolution, adopting a resolution authorizing the submittable application for the Economic Development Administration American Rescue Plan Act Travel, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation Grant for the Standpipe Renovation Project and development of a community park to increase tourism and preserve the historic Belton Standpipe landmark. And Joelle Guzman is going to give us an update on that.
Yes, this is a federal grant. It's through the Economic Development Administration, the American Rescue Plan Act for Travel, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation. You can see on the slide here, we kind of given some overviews of where this is actually located at. And it's actually to be able to restore the historical water standpipe and create a community events park. With that, will attract tourists as well as new retail and restaurants along Main Street and I-14 in this area. The historical water standpipe area is actually a 20-minute walk to the University of Mary Hardin Baylor through the scenic hike and bike trail along Nolan Creek as well. So it's not a very far distance. The community events park space would tie in well with other activities that occur in and around Belton, such as market days, Christmas on Chisholm Trail, July 4th celebration, antique car shows, farmers markets, outdoor concerts, with linkage to Yeti Polk and Harris Community Parks. The vendor revenue during events is estimated between $500 to $2,000 per event per vendor. And the possibility of attracting new retail along South Central Main Street and I-14 area is also promising. The estimated project cost is $1.5 million with a 20% match of $300,000 from TERS and hotel and motel. The OPC includes a 10% contingency of $143,000, which will give flexibility for final elements of the park area and the standpipe. The OPC includes a pavilion, sidewalks, restrooms, parking, and standpipe renovations that will include the removal and replacement of the plaster coating, clean and repair concrete spells, clean steel corrosion, ventilate the standpipe to reduce the risk of moisture accumulation within the standpipe so that we can continue with longevity and durability, and also lighting. This project, we'll be able to end up bringing a lot to that particular area. So if anybody has any questions.
Thank you very much. That's a very exciting project to me, and that area is probably underserved. I think that would be a wonderful addition to our city, and certainly a light unto the city when you're coming down I-35 or even I-14. And I think I recall there's only one standpipe like that left in the United States besides ours.
Right, there is one in Wisconsin.
So it is a very unique structure in that regard. So questions or comments from council?
I'm glad you said light, because I think we should add like Christmas stuff to it, because that's one thing you'd actually see it and know it's there, because I think most people don't ever see it. And anyway, maybe one of these days we can get something.
Big light shining up through it.
A big red B when you're coming into town.
Yeah.
Yeah, red or purple. Yeah, depending on who wins Saturday, it's which light you're going to light it up.
Yeah. Well, I'd go ahead. I'd make a motion that we adopt the resolution authorizing the submittal of the application for the grant.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. Before we adjourn into executive session,
BEDC.
I'm sorry, I did.
Number 12.
I scratched it out. Before we adjourn into executive session, Cynthia has something to share with us. Item 12, to consider authorizing the BEDC Executive Director to sign development agreements with A, X-Desk for BED assistance in the form of a land grant for the development of 60,000 square feet in the Belton Business Park, and B, Echo Pool for BED assistance in the form of a land grant for the development of 150,000 square foot in the Belton Business Park. Thank you for
All right.
coming.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and thank you for allowing me to proceed with this item before we adjourn into executive session. So we have been working with Jason Herring, who is the founder of two companies out of the Austin Round Rock area, on the relocation of X-Desk and Echo Pool to Belton. Jason is participating virtually. Chris, I believe we have him on Zoom. Yes, okay. Jason's participating virtually. So if you have any questions for him later in the presentation, he will be available to answer. Let's see. So last month you approved a contract with Rock Street LLC for the sale, for BEDC sale of 30 acres and the 30.6 acres in the Belton Business Park. And it was mentioned that we would offer some assistance towards the purchase of the land in the form of a land grant. So today we'll provide you with an overview on the companies, their commitment to Belton, and BEDC's proposal to assist with their relocation. For now, we're going to focus on the 5.6 acres for X-Desk. Okay. So X-Desk was established in 2012, and they manufacture power adjustable standing desks. The company approached BDC in search of a location and has requested assistance to help offset the cost of the land. The company is proposing a $3 million investment. As per the development agreement that's in your packet, the company will purchase the property in the business park, construct a 60,000 square foot building, and our assistance is valued at $174,574 and will be represented by a note payable to BEDC. This note will be secured by a deed of trust lien on the property. Upon occupancy of the 60,000 square foot building, the lien will be released. Let's see. Okay. And so you can see currently, well, I didn't put this on the slide, but currently the company employs 30 people. They're looking to double that employment. And so over a 4-year period, they hope to employ 60 people. And then we anticipate the occupancy to occur by June 2024. The second company that we're working with is Echo Pool, and they manufacture swimming pools made out of shipping containers in various sizes. And so this company was established in 2020, and they are in need of a major expansion, and they're proposing a $7 million investment in the business park. And so we are working with them on the 25 acres north of Digby Drive. As per the development agreement, the company will purchase the 25 acres. They will likely phase into construction, so 75,000 square foot building to begin with. And then upon completion, they anticipate that by year 2, they will start the second 75,000 square foot building. Our assistance will be valued at $397,153. And this again will be represented by a note payable to BEDC. The lien on the 25 acres will likely be in place longer since the second building is estimated for occupancy in December 2027. Upon occupancy of 150,000 square feet, then we will forgive or release the lien. A couple of other items to note about the development agreement in your packet. Rock Street LLC is named in both of those, and we felt that was important because the real estate transaction is going to be with Rock Street LLC. They're going to buy the land, build the building, and so we needed to tie that to the companies. And they're all different entities owned by the same person or people, the same group. Also in the agreement, there is an option for BEDC to purchase the property back. So if they don't begin construction, we have the option to purchase it back at the price that we sold it, minus the incentives, of course. And also it's our understanding that They may set up a separate entity for the Belton location. And so they're working through that right now. So we've given them the option to assign the agreement, but we believe that all of that will be finalized before we close on the property. The closing on the property could occur in late June, but they have an option to extend their feasibility period by 30 days. And so that could be pushed back to late February or early March, depending on how those days fall. And then let's see. Oh, yes. And as you're aware, we use our economic impact model when we're determining how to offer incentives, what value, to help guide us in negotiating the incentives. And so what we're recommending, the values that we're recommending for the land grant, basically the project will yield a 15% rate of return for the taxpayers with a 7-year payback period. And then another component that's notable related to incentives is that the company does not intend to request tax abatements, as what BEDC is proposing will be sufficient to assist them in the relocation. Let's see. The Board of Directors approved the development agreement on December 7th, and at this time, we're seeking your consideration and authorizing the agreements as proposed. And again, we have Jason Herring on the line if you have any questions for either of us or comments.
Thank you, Cynthia, very much. Questions, comments from council members?
Cynthia, is there any uniqueness to those warehouses or the construction of those facilities that might be a negative if this doesn't work out?
My understanding, for the manufacturing, for the X-Desk company, I have via Google Earth seen their current locations, and there's nothing from the outside looking in. There's nothing unique in the event that the company didn't move forward and the building was constructed. I do feel like there would be a great building on the ground that the property owner or someone would be able to fill pretty quickly given the market today. And Jason can probably speak more to help to the finish out. For the swimming pool manufacturer, I understand that the idea is that is going to be set up more like an automotive manufacturing type facility. I have not been through their existing facility, so I can't speak to the finish out of that. And Jason, I don't know if you want to chime in.
Yeah, I think I can clarify. So basically they're big box buildings, basically Class A facilities. So essentially they've got about 5,000 square feet of finish out each. So about 5,000 square feet of office space, and the rest would just be completely wide open. So if we were to move out, then someone else could easily move in and take over that facility.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Looking at those desks online, those are very impressive.
Yeah, we've had quite the response, especially in the last couple of years as everybody began transitioning from the office to home. They typically don't want to take an old beat up piece of particle board and throw it in their house. So the higher end products have really taken off lately.
That's great. We will look forward to being able to welcome you to Belton.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Cynthia or Jason? Entertain a motion, and we need to do those separately. A would be X-Desk for BED assistance in the form of a land grant for the development of 60,000 square feet in the Belton Business Park.
I move we approve executive director to execute the development agreements with X-Desk for BEDC assistance in the form of land grant, the development of the 60,000 square foot in the Belton Business Park.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item B.
Since I'm reading so well, I'll go ahead and make a motion. I move to let the executive director from BEDC execute a development agreement with EcoPool for BED assistance in the form of land grant for the development of 150,000 square foot building in the Belton Business Park.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And those motions pass unanimously. Well done, sir. Now, since we tried to skip Cynthia, I apologize for that. I'm glad you did that. It's something great. Before we do adjourn, I just want to shout out, and obviously Michelle's not here tonight, but she was the ramrod and the organizer for the Christmas party for the city, and she did a fabulous job. And certainly applaud her if you see her. And also Mr. Bates was the recipient of the Les Hallbauer Award, and that's the highest award that we give in the city, and we appreciate all your work, Matt. Also, Chief Fontenot, I don't think he's here tonight, but that was the Department of the Year. He received that award. And Laura Livingston, who works there in the started to say central office, that's a flashback, in City Hall for the Customer Service Award. So, congratulations to all three of those people. And I think we had 170 folks there. That's the most we've ever had at our Christmas party. It was well done. It was a fun night and celebrated the hard work that the staff's done this year. Being no further business, we're going to adjourn this, and we're going to reconvene in 5 minutes to executive session.